Hi Dev, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks for asking, and welcome to In Conversation with Dave. The very first question that I want to ask you is, basically I don't ask this to everyone, but then since you're a psychologist, a neurodivergent psychologist, I want to understand what was your first impression of us and the studio? Of me as well.
Yeah, this is you're putting me on spot. I can't do this. I can't read minds.
The rest of the podcast depends on how you answer this. I'd be giving you difficult questions if you're not being nice to me now.
It's not very nice. But the studio is very lovely. You seem like a sweet person for now. We will assess later.
Yes. Alright, so Janani, first things first, I'd want you to introduce yourself. What are the things that you've been doing, because you are doing a lot. And trust me, if I were you, I don't think I would have come to this podcast, because I would have been so much busy doing the other things that you do. So yeah, tell me about yourself. Tell the audience about yourself.
So I'm Janani. I'm a psychologist by profession. I'm also a professional kuchipudi dancer. I've been doing that for 16 years now.
All right.
Apart from that, I also play the keyboard sometimes.
All right.
But these two are like, and I was also a writer at one point.
Right.
I used to write poems. But my way of expression, was.
Why start writing poems? Any story behind it, or what triggered? Is there a trigger, or is just that a hobby that you like to put yourself on the paper?
It was a trigger. It was also what led me to psychology in some sense, I would say. I've had an abusive childhood.
Sorry.
That's all right. Way past that. But I think it was a constant emotional turmoil within me that my father would drink and beat me up for whatever reason, and I just never knew why. So there was a lot of pent up emotions in that. And going further, we had a death in the family who was someone who was very close to me and my mom. So that sort of just pushed me overboard, because I was not able to deal with the grief I was experiencing, and the one way that I felt I could release it was when I put it down on paper.
Right.
So I did that for some time. Then I started going out and doing spoken word poetry.
Right.
And I realized it felt good to say it out loud in public. And that made also people come up to me and say that, hey, thanks, I don't feel alone anymore in this.
Right.
So I think that was a pretty big game changer for me.
Right.
In some sense.
Right. First thing first, I also, when we meet people, we do have, sort of perceptions about, but then now that you have mentioned this, I understand, that we people, we might not know what actually happens, and, what are different things that have actually made us. And I'm sure that whatever happened has made you today, to the graceful, wonderful women you are. And I'm also sorry for the abusive childhood, but at the same time, I think, things are not in our control. I think that's the takeaway. That sometimes we would want certain things in certain way, but then it doesn't turn out that way. And most of the times, I believe that what you can do is you can either run away from it or face it. And the way you are facing it, I'm sure it's one of the best way to do. Because I would have ran perhaps because I've did it in my past. The last time I was a poet, I wrote it because I was in love with this girl, and then I did not tell her. I did not tell her. And then my poem started 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm your superstar, something like that. It's very, very weird of me. I remember. I think I have them. I'll show you. Perhaps I'll showcase someday, and then something like that. I've written it from 1, 2, 3, 4, and then till 20. It was very weird, and I think that's why she ran away. But I did not write my name though, that it was me. I just slid it into a bag.
Hey, no comments, man.
I just hope I see her someday.
Your effort is appreciated, I'm sure.
Pay for efforts, right? But yes, my poem, it's very dark and intense, basically. I also write, it's very dark and intense. I think I've also had not very similar childhood, but I think there has been lots of things that have happened in my childhood that it was very much hard for me to also figure out everything and the emotions as well. And I guess right now I'm at a point where I have the privilege to actually work it out. And I guess maybe when bad things have happened to you, maybe it's good to always revisit, go back, and then change the narratives. Take not the good or the bad, but take it, but accept it basically. It's not about taking the good. I've always heard people telling that you should take the good out of something bad. I don't think that's actually how it works. It's just that you have to accept it, and only then you can experience it again, you can put it into words, and until and unless you don't put your experience into words or into actions, I don't think you could ever come out of a certain problem. But thanks for sharing that. It's very brave of you to share that. That too in the first 5 minutes. I don't know, it would just go like this and then like that.
Sorry, my poetry is also very dark. Also defines
I'd love to. I've actually seen some of your poetry. I knew that, it might have been out of a trigger, but
it's all
not
experience.
this. Yeah, not this. But so tell me, how was your childhood? Since you've mentioned a little bit, but I want to understand what kind of a kid were you? Were you like very strict, calm, naughty, or silent? Or how were you as a kid?
I think I was. I used to just be holed up in my room all the time, usually just reading something. That's something my mom made sure she instilled in me, is to read as many books as possible, and then it became an obsession after a point. I was naughty when I had to be, because there were so many restrictions on me from my dad that at some point as a child I will ignore all those restrictions and go ahead and do otherwise.
Okay.
I was a pretty obedient child, I think.
And how were you with Max?
With math?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I hate that subject.
This is why I chose doing podcasting, because here there's no math except for the timings, and Janani actually chose a very different time to actually visit me on a summer, 2 p.m. In the afternoon. But yes, I hate math, and I also understand the timing now. Since you hate math, I completely understand.
Math.
Yeah. So
I thought when I took psychology I would escape it, but then statistics come and drops itself in your lap. So.
Yeah, it's a trap. It's a trap. I remember I have actually taken MEC, Max Economics Commerce, and I thought that would be the last Mac subject that I would ever take. But then in my degree I took commerce, and I thought Max wouldn't be there.
Well,
right?
surprise.
Statistics. It's always there. Somehow I still don't know when to use it, where to use it. But it's okay if everything. I mean, if others can use it, then good for them. I have other profession. You have other profession. And let's see about it. So how were your grades? How were your 10th? Because 10th was back then, it was like a big thing.
Yeah.
Even now, I think it's even bigger thing. The kind of stress that students are going through. I think it's more now. But how was at your time?
Well, my grades dropped drastically from 8th grade onwards.
Okay.
Till then, I was a great student.
Okay.
Why and how, I don't know. I was probably just a teenager and didn't want to study. But 10th was difficult. I was failing in my pre-finals and all. I failed in computers, I failed in math, I failed in Hindi.
Really?
I failed in chemistry. Now 4 subjects I absolutely despise.
Okay.
So I ended up failing in my pre-finals until 2 months before my boards. My mom just sat me down and she said, listen,
okay,
you need to make this happen, and I will make sure you make this happen.
All right.
So now, don't get me wrong, my mom's my biggest support system, always was. But if not for her, I don't think I would have passed my boards.
You know what I think? I think you needed a friend. You did not have my number back then?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I guess we would have both failed if you took my help. But no, I did not fail. I was actually a very bright child.
Yeah.
I scored 10.
Hey, I don't think academics is defined by whether you were bright or not.
No, we were talking about academics. No, we were talking about the subjects particularly.
Achha,
so I was bright in academics.
Very cool.
You don't think I'm bright right now?
No, I think you're very smart. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I don't know. It's just. Oh, by the way, should I just edit the part where you just told that you failed in subjects? Because I don't want people to think that we are bringing a bunch of idiots like me or you, or who's not very good at academics. Do you think that would be okay? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't judge people. I was just giving you a bad think about it. But okay, how did it feel when you failed subjects?
After a point, it got funny. Really, I was not able to understand these subjects.
No, did you cry? Do you cry? Like girls do, we all know, right? Girls cry over marks, something like that.
What is this sexism?
No, you don't know. No, but it has always been there. When there's this memes, men after getting 35 and then girls after getting 98, they would cry for that other 2 marks. So did you cry back then?
No, I don't think I cried. At least from what I remember. I knew I was bad at these subjects, and no matter how hard I tried, I would never be good at them. It didn't make sense to me.
Right.
Today I understand why, but back then I was just okay, what am I to do in this? So I didn't feel bad. I felt a little helpless for sure. But then it just got funny after a point because no matter what I tried, it didn't work.
Right. And talking about your childhood, there are times that when someone faces these kind of, it's very hard for them to open up. It's very hard for them to make friends also sometimes. So how was it for you making friends and having a company that you could trust on?
I was a very lonely child for the longest part of my life. I didn't have any friends as such. There would always be that one friend, and then they would leave and go, and then I would just be alone again. So yeah, I don't know why it was difficult for me to make friends. I feel even till today it's a little challenging for me to make friends in any possible setting. But yeah, as I got to college, during graduation is when I made a friend who's even till date one of my closest friends that I have. But all my friends have been only later after that. So currently I have like a group of 5 people in my life, and that's it.
Right.
But yeah.
Why do you think friends leave?
Why do I think friends leave?
Yeah.
I think if you just don't match your tangents, at some point you just end up distancing.
Do you really
yourself.
think that we would be that mature enough to understand what tangent are we matching and are we not? Like when we were kids, right? Right now, I mean, now I understand, we can understand, we can differentiate, we can know what's right, what's not right for us. But back then, do you think we had that cognition, or is it just something about being cooler or something like that? How do you think back then we were making friends? As a psychologist, I mean, this is a question since you're a psychologist. How do you think we as kids were making friends? Is it just because they sat beside us in the first day of school?
No, I think it's very flock mentality when you think about it. Because the cooler you are, the more respected or wanted you are amongst your peers.
Right.
And there's so much pressure to fit in. As a child, even otherwise, even as an adult, there's that pressure to constantly fit in, because otherwise you would be bullied, you would be made fun of, people would not talk to you. So I think due to that pressure to fit in, people try to fit in into the cooler groups so that they are accepted. So I wouldn't say that that's necessarily friendship.
Right.
But it's some form of company at that point, which is needed if you want to save yourself from all the remarks and stuff like that.
And the worst part, it still exists.
It does exist still.
Right. And how can we educate people on this point, and how can we educate students here and make a difference?
I think if we were talking about narratives, right? Like how there are different narratives that are already set in stone. Same thing applies in a school setting as well, right? Because children who don't necessarily do well in academics but are very well otherwise in their sports activities, or students who don't talk much or can't talk much in public for whatever reason it is, students who are different than majority tend to say they are different even by the teachers.
Right.
So I think in that age, when an authority figure is also saying that, that is also what the kids learn from them.
Right.
Additionally, the group dynamics that do play a part, which is, it's like, that different groups are given different sort of respect, different sort of privileges than the rest.
Right.
So I think starting with educating teachers is the first thing.
Right.
Then moving to telling students that, hey, everyone's one. There's no really...
Right.
Everyone works differently. I think that is one message that people need to get through in their heads at some point.
Right. No, I'll be honest, I'm no saint, but at the same time I believe that sexism is a bigger problem today, right? Okay. When we talk about genders, just now I've made a comment, and I purposefully made that comment because I want to show you how people perceive gender as well today. And sad case, we are perceiving it for the other genders as well, that is not widely accepted as of now. People do have a phobia for it. People don't understand them as of now. LGBTQ plus community I'm talking about. And I believe that there's so much sexism, there's so much media, there's so much movies out there. Even when we were kids, we would show a gay person as someone who you should be running away from. Someone who you shouldn't be in company with. And I guess there's been lots of communications happen back then, even without intent. I mean, even with intention or without intentions. I guess this has all put us into different narratives altogether, and we think something is right and something is wrong because of that part, because we have all seen something like that. And I guess the media, the people around us, especially when we were kids, right? I mean, when you are someone who's like in 7th standard or 8th standard, everything that you would consume is your reality.
Yeah.
If you consume an environment where there's no sexism, that's how you become, or that's who you become in the future. But if you are there where there's constant sexism going on, there's constant racism going on, and I believe the people around us has to be educated much more. And I don't know how we can educate parents as of now, because there are certain set of parents who are not very accepting.
Yeah.
But yes, teachers, something that you've just mentioned, I believe that yes, if at all we can start it from the schools, that's something. I think I should be adding this in the curriculum. So I am the founder and CEO of Project C Foundation, and what we do is we have this year-long program that we give to schools, where we actually touch upon every subject that's important when it comes to mental health. We talk about racism, we talk about sexism, we talk about body shaming, we talk about all the other things. It's a very curated program, and I'm not just putting in, it's just that I just wanted to share it with you, and perhaps we'd be focusing on much more problems like this, because it's everything. I mean, all the problems comes from the very roots of it, right? And then the roots are basically schools, your home, right? If your home, if parents aren't well, if they are not using the right language, if they're not respecting you in a proper way, that affects your self-respect, that affects your self-esteem as well. And then in school, if you're treated something different or not treated well as the other cooler kids, there's also a very longer impact that happens. People like us, we would take years to actually open up, right? And I believe that trauma isn't a very good place to be in, or to rather unwrap it and think about it, or make sure we are making peace with it. Why not have peace at the first place? I've just had this conversation with president of Apollo Hospitals, former president of Apollo Hospitals, and I asked him, like, how exactly can we make sure that the next pandemic shouldn't happen, or is India ready to take care of the next pandemic? He just told me, why are you talking about handling a pandemic? Because we have time and we can actually stop the pandemic, and it comes with healthy lifestyle, it comes with drinking good water, I mean pure water, and all of these things. So it says that the wording goes, the quotation goes as in prevention is always better than cure. So I think that's how we can solve it. Thanks for sharing that. I think this should go out there, and people should understand, and teachers especially, they should really understand this part. But that said, how was life after school?
Life after school was it was good. My inter 11th and 12th grade were focused mainly on my dance and gymnastics. At that point, I think I was still sort of figuring out.
Dance. Oh yeah, you're a Kuchipudi dancer. I did not tell you I have a story, but yeah, continue.
What's your story?
So I'm afraid of classical dancers, right? So what happened, when I was a kid, there was this annual function going on, and I don't know for what reason, they just thought it would be funny to actually scare kids the shit out. Right, so they closed the doors of the school, of the classroom. They just thought it was funny, and then enters Chandramukhi, right? Remember Chandramukhi?
Yeah, I remember
Chandramukhi. Yeah. So they just made a women dress up like that in classicals, but very horrible, like the makeup here and there, just like Chandramukhi, the broken braids, the flowers, all of that, and then she just entered into the room and started scaring everyone.
How old were you?
I was in 9 years old, 9, 8. It's like very, very young.
It's not a nice thing to do.
I know, right? They just thought it was funny, and I really want to sue the school at this point of time, because I'm traumatized now. Because there's so many wonderful classical dancers out there, and I just can't look at them. And I'm like, okay. And then for some reason, she just thought I'm a good soft target, and then she held me by my by my arms, and she's like, and I'm like. Yeah, and then it's a very traumatizing story for me. And after that, I could never actually watch classical performance or classical dance performance. I could never.
Now?
Yeah, even now, I'm very afraid of. You are like this, I can talk to you. But if you are in your makeup, I'm like.
I was just gonna ask what made you bring me here. If that's how scared you are.
No, I just wanted to understand that please don't scare kids. If you have the time. I mean, I'm sure you're a very considerate human being, but tell your other classical dance friends, if at all, they would want to scare.
We usually don't do that. That's not part of our profession.
I don't know why they did it. But yes, I'm scared, that's why. And even now, I can't. I mean, I can, but it takes me guts to actually, hold it and sit and watch someone perform.
I'm sorry someone did that to you.
I know, right? The school, I'm suing them. Yeah. But yes, that said, you are a dancer yourself, and it's very tough, and it's very artful.
Yeah.
Right, and it's just very amazing to know that every art comes out of a certain practice, comes out of a certain time. It comes out of years and years of perfection, practice and perfection. So how did you come into dancing, and how was it? Was it also a space for you to vent out what happened to you? How exactly things were for you as a dancer, as a classical Kuchipudi dancer?
So I got into it when I was 10 years old. My mom forcefully put me into it because she said that I used to do kickboxing before that. It reached to a point where I was showing off my muscles to people at school and stuff like that. So mom were a little concerned.
Okay.
So she said maybe it's time
for you to also explore the feminine
side.
Okay.
Like this is fine, but something new, maybe. So she forced me to go there, and I know I very unwillingly joined the dance class. But then I also saw that there was gymnastics that was there, a part of it, to improve our flexibility in dance. To me, that was more exciting. So I said, okay, let's do it. I joined, and after that there was no looking back at any point, because it became such a big part of my life, something that I enjoyed doing, something where I felt it was my space to release, it was my space for expression, it was my space where I felt like myself. So I think even till now, dance is that consistent part of me. The reason I balance both of them to the extent where even if I don't have time, it's fine, is because if not for that, I don't think I would be as grounded as I am in general, because there was a time when I got a break of 3 years in the middle due to my own mental health challenges.
3 months? 3
years.
Wow,
I got a 3-year break in the middle. This was just when I was in my final year of graduation till middle of COVID, second wave of COVID. At that point, there was something that was missing in my life, and I just didn't know what it was. I had walked away without telling anything to my dance teacher because I was grappling with my own things. But the one thing that was always missing for me, and I didn't realize that until I joined back, was that it was dance. There was this constant emptiness that, it's just not there. What is that that's not there? So when I got back, I realized that it was just this that was missing in my life to make me feel like myself again. I started losing myself in the process. So dance plays that big of a vital role for me, because I feel it keeps me empathetic towards myself. It helps me to view myself with empathy and with non-judgment, because I feel if you're not empathetic and non-judgmental to yourself, you really can't dance. So that's what it is for me.
And what happened? Why do you think you started losing yourself?
During that break, I took the break at that point because that death had happened in my family. That was my mom's boyfriend at that point. So my mom got divorced from my dad, and then she was with this person. So he passed away in our house in the shower, which was not very nice. It was extremely traumatic for us.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. See, these are all things that I've moved forward from, I would say, and I'm comfortable to talk about. So during that time is when there was a lot happening. There was a lot of pressure at dance also, because my big performance was coming up and I had to be ready, but my brain was really not at that moment. So because I was not able to take care of any of that, I just left. I didn't tell anything, I just walked away. And then obviously I thought I was getting over it. Clearly not, in not very healthy ways. I had my own backlashes. I was acting out in many different ways. If you had met Janani before that incident and after that incident, that period was not Janani. I don't know who that person was. But it was a part of me, right? It's what made me who I am today as well. So at that point, I had no connection with anything that I was doing. My studies were taking a toll. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to bunk college and go sit outside and do nothing. Until when COVID hit, I realized that I was also drinking a lot at that point. And this was, say, when I was 20 to 26, something around that time. But yeah, I was drinking a lot at that point. I realized that I was slipping down a path that was very, very dark for me at that point. I had hit rock bottom, and I didn't realize that until my mom started pointing it out to me, and my stepdad, who's a part of my life, he started pointing it out to me. saying that there's something going on with you. Maybe you want to go talk to a therapist.
Right.
And being someone who's studying psychology, I'm like, I don't need a therapist. I'm fine. Who needs a therapist? Pretty ironic now when I think about it. But I think after 1 year, I actually took that step. Found one of the best therapists for me. Did 1 year of solid work on myself. In that 1 year, I realized that all the things that I thought I was over, I really was not over. So I did that, and the person that came out of that was an entirely different person, who I am today also, right?
Okay.
So for me, that after I worked on myself, I joined back dance because I realized in that process that this is what also helps me identify with who I am.
Right.
Right. That whole 1 year journey was me discovering myself again.
Right.
So that's how I lost myself and found myself.
Wow. It's just very easy for actually us to lose ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's very tough for us to find ourselves again.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you did.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're here today.
Oh,
talking
thank
to
you. Yeah.
Yeah. At least you're not drunk today. I'm just kidding. Imagine you're like, hey, yo, okay. Sometimes when you say, whenever you talk to people, for me, because I talk to a lot of them, and most of them think that I'm an extrovert, but I'm not. I'm actually a very introverted person myself. It just doesn't seem so, right? And it's very tough for people to actually understand me as well. It's very tough for me because I'm not very expressive. The only time that I get expressive is when I'm talking here. But apart from that, I have my own room. I lock myself up and I do my work. It's very hard for my parents to understand what kind of a person I am. But what I can understand from you with the kind of conversation that we have till now is that you are a very empathetic, sensible, as well as very sensitive person as well.
Oh, thank you.
Right. So it's just very different combination, being empathetic as well as sensitive, and I'm sure you had to work on yourself a lot. But then I also want to understand, since we had this conversation, I want to understand the very first question, or the only question that we ask to our guest. The main question is, what do you think? What do they think? What life is all about? Right. So let me say, if at all you can put into words, what do you think life is all about? What's your perspective on life?
Now, I can't speak for everyone, but what I can speak is for myself. To me, life is all about experiences. Every day you experience something or the other, in different forms, say going out for a hike, going scuba diving, experiencing something with a friend, a relationship, your family, whatever. It's just, the world is filled with experiences. Life is filled with experiences. And I think all those experiences make who you are at every step of the day. Every day you're a different person because every day there's a new experience that's a part of your life. So to me, life is all about living those experiences, being curious about it, not running away, but going through those experiences in whatever way I can, be it like a big hot mess or like a calm, or like neither of those, But to actually live all those experiences, to be myself throughout all those experiences. And in short, I think life to me is about being yourself authentically every day, every second of every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Understood. Wonderful. How are your friends for you now? Like, how are your friends, the relationships that you share as of now?
I think I have very solid friendships. As a part of my life, and I think I'm one of the lucky ones to have such strong friendships who support me at any given point of the day. Like even when I was coming here, it's like, hey, all the best, do well, I know you'll rock it. All of
You
that.
are.
You're making it easy. I'm very nervous inside, but anyways. So I do have very good friendships. They all make me realize every day that I'm worth it, I'm doing enough, and they're like that rock, my anchor in all sense of it. So we always, whenever we talk about friendship or any other relationships, it's just very important to find them who can actually push you, support you, and accept you, for whoever you are. But tell me the importance of it.
Because see, I understand the importance, but I want to put it out through your words. Why is it so important to have people like them in our lives? We have come alone, like we did birth alone, and most of the things that we do since our childhood, we have done it alone. But then at certain point of time, is it very fair to call it dependency, or is it complementary? That is what I'm asking. When we are actually having friends who are pushing us through, who are supporting us, so how do you view it, and why is it so important to have anchors in our life?
I think anchors are your complementary people in your life. You don't depend on them, but they're there. They're there for you to go back to. It's like touching home ground again at some point.
Okay.
Right? We are born alone. In some way, I agree.
Okay.
But in some way, you're also born amongst people, right? It's unfortunate that we do everything alone, even when we have so many people around us, because there is a lack of support in whatever sense. Your family is your first biggest anchor, depending on how your relationship is with them. For me, my family was my biggest anchor, is still my biggest anchor. That's a relationship in my life that I absolutely cherish. My friends are my second anchor. Like right now when my family is not around me, you need those anchors otherwise also to go back to, because sometimes you will slip, sometimes you will go down that path, and it is never dependent. You don't depend on them for anything. You go to them because you need that extra support at that point to just believe a little more in yourself because you're feeling a little low.
Right.
But if they're not there, you'll still be able to manage it.
Correct.
It's like a therapist and a client. Not exactly, but it's like we're both climbing a same mountain. I'm climbing this mountain, you're climbing this mountain. I can only look at you and say, hey, something's coming your way, just want to move to the side a little.
Okay.
And you can look at me and say, hey, there's a rock coming your way, just move to the side a little.
Okay.
That's complementary. It's not dependent, but it's complementary. I'm still looking. I can see if there's a rock coming, but you're just
assuring
me. That is, yeah.
Right.
So I think that's how I feel relationships, any form, mostly should be complementary. Not should, but it would be nice to be complementary, because that also saves you your identity and the relationship you have with that person.
Right.
I don't know if I made sense. I felt I just rambled
no, you
for
did.
a second.
You did. I mean, you did. But we've spoken this, but I think the one thing that I really wanted to ask is there are lots of things that have happened in your life. There are lots of experiences, and since you mentioned that life is all about experiences, I believe in it completely. But I want to understand, how did you get into psychology? Like, was it a very math-oriented profession that you chosen, or like how did it come to you? I understand you're empathetic, and I also believe that psychologists are natural empaths. That's how, sometimes or the other. But then, how did you come here or be this profession?
As odd as this is going to sound, I think I knew by 7th grade that this is what I wanted to do.
Okay. How was your introduction to psychology?
Something online. I cannot remember what it was exactly, but it made me think about the mind. It's such a complex thing, and there's a reason why everyone's so different. And I think that was just one part of it. I knew I wanted to get into it, but I had no idea about anything about it. But then when I went forward in life, I was living my life at that point also, and I experienced my own fair share of struggles where I felt that, just having that extra support at that point counts for so much, just someone who listens to you, who understands you. And to me, I had my mother, which helped me, I would say, but to a lot of people that's not there. And then when I saw my mother struggle with depression also, it reiterated the fact for me that there's a dearth of this, at least in India. And there's a dearth of it everywhere else as well, because people are booked out for 6 months and stuff like that, and you need to really spend months waiting for that help. But shouldn't mental health be as accessible as any hospital around you, right? Any physical health around you. So somewhere there was this thing inside me that just grew louder and louder, where I was like, why can't it be accessible for everyone, right? Because when I also went and tried reaching out to therapists, paying 2,500 per session was a lot of money. it is a lot of money even to this date, right? And a lot of people can't afford it. So all these experiences that I've had in my life, constant questions of why do people do what they do, why am I doing this, what do I think of myself, where am I going with this, what's so many questions, and they were all related to what's going on here at the end of the day, in your mind.
Right.
So it just strengthened my love for it. I just started reading more and more and understanding it more. Then in my bachelor's, I said, okay, I'll study psychology. I took psychology, literature, and mass communication. 3 of my best options in front of me, so that I get to decide later what I want to do in case I change my mind. And there was a point when I was confused if this is what I wanted to do. So then I did my internship for the first time. And as crazy as this might sound, that was the place I felt like I was at home. It felt like I was good at it. It felt like I can make a difference here, like it's something that I know how to do. So I think at that point is when I realized that this is it. This is my stop for me, and this is what I want to do. And since then, it has been always about. I've always wanted to open my own thing. I never wanted to work under someone. I as a person, I'm incapable of working under anyone.
I get it.
Yeah, like I physically cannot. And I accepted that, and I was like, okay, eventually, once I finish my education and all of that, maybe I can do this, right? So that's how I pretty much got into psychology. Yeah.
How's life as a psychologist now?
It's the most wholesome profession that I can think of, When your clients come and tell you that, hey, I did this today, I stood up to this person today, and I did what you asked me to do, and it seemed to have worked. Thank you for being there. It makes so much difference to me. These things just make your heart full. Something that I feel like is such gratification that you're making a difference. It's not a very egocentric. It's not like I feel great about myself because I made that difference in their life, but it's about how we both work together to find a solution for you that works. So life as a psychologist, it's amazing. It's all things wonderful, but also comes with its own emotions that you have to deal with on a regular basis, I feel. Yeah, because you're listening to so many stories, you're listening to so many experiences, some really not pleasant. So, yeah.
How do you maintain that balance?
Somehow I've learned to have that on-off switch in my head, where when I'm in a session, it's completely there. I'm completely there. And once I'm out of it, it's not playing on my head until I go back to it on my own. But there are times that it's not as easy as that. So for me, I have my things that I do, which is to go dance.
Okay.
Dance is my way of bringing myself to where I am today. Just grounding myself. I still, write stuff in my journal and stuff like that. I listen to music. It's my biggest stress buster. So these are things that I do to ground myself, to come back to myself when I feel a little too much of it going on for me.
Right, understood. And all the best. I think your psychologists are all wonderful. But there are certain things that you can also not get away from, which is love. Because I think by far is one of the strongest emotion mankind has ever known. Mankind or womankind has ever known. So I think it's time to change that, no? Yeah. So
people kind.
People kind. Yeah. Better. So how has been love to you? Was it kind to you? Was it hard? How has been love? And how did you maneuver through love? And how are you as of now? Your status? You're single. You're married. I don't think you're married.
I'm not married.
Okay. So how's everything going on? How's love to you? And how's everything going on as of now?
What love to me means a partnership. By partnership, I mean it's a very equal space where if I at some point step a little down, this person steps a little up, and if at some point they step a little down, I step a little up, to maintain that equilibrium. It's knowing each other's areas of improvement and knowing how to work with them during that. Not blaming them for all of that, but compensating for it because they are not able to do it at this point. So I think love to me is about respect, support, knowing the person and how they work and being able to work with them. Because when two people come together, it's a very complex equation, right? It's never just you. It's not about you anymore. It's not just you being your entire self and you are still your entire self, but at this point there's another person who's involved in your life who is also a part of you, and you sort of learn to work with them as well. So I think it's another whole journey of discovering this person and then seeing how you
and also discovering yourself. I guess
exactly.
Most of the times we discover ourselves as well.
You learn so many more things about yourself when with this other person in your life. So I think love to me is respect, support, and just being there for each other in whatever capacity, however you can. It's not compromise, right? It's not compromise at the end of the day. It's learning to work with each other.
Wow.
So I think that's.
Can you just tell that again, please? I want it to be highlighted. It's not compromising.
It's not compromising. It's learning to work with each other.
Wow. And I'm sure you must have gone through certain things to actually come to this point.
Yes.
So how has been them? Like what happened? Was like tough, heartbreak, like if at all heartbroken, what did you do?
I've had my fair share of partnerships, relationships. I've had my fair share of them. They were heartbreaking. Some of them, yeah. Some of them were just a very mutually decisive, let's go our own way sort of thing. But nonetheless heartbreaking, right?
Right.
But I feel each of them helped me identify what my actual definition of love is, what it means to me, what was working, what was not. Because they ended, for whatever reasons they ended at that point, I realized that this was not working for me. So I think it taught me a lot more about how I want to be loved, how I can help the other person understand how they can love me, and they help me understand how I can love them better. It's about teaching. You can't expect the other person to just know how to love you. It's not something they come with, There are certain baseline things that everyone does to show love, but there are certain things that you as an individual would want to be loved in a certain way. And I feel that those are things you need to teach your partner in some way or the other. So I think my journey was all about learning for myself as to how I want to be loved.
And how's everything now?
Now everything's good. I have someone who's very supportive of me and stuff. So it's good for now. I think my definition of love stands
Tall?
Stands pretty tall. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. What do you think? How does a perfect love story, not perfect love story, I think love stories are all imperfect by the very first attempt of actually making sure that two people are living together, and that's a very imperfect thing to do. But at the same time, I just want to understand, how do you see a imperfect love story to be like how exactly it should be? Like what are the important things that has to be there in a love relationship for it to prosper? I mean, respect is one, I know that, but apart from that.
I don't think I can really answer that question, right? Because what's important to me is probably not as important to you or another person out there. Because relationships are viewed differently by everyone. And I cannot answer that for everyone. But like basic things like respect and support is something that I'm aware that everyone knows of.
Right.
So I wouldn't say there's no perfect love story, if you ask me. There will be your times there are going to be times that are messy. There are going to be times that you feel like there's no way out of this, but there always is if you're willing to work together and find a middle ground. The key being working together at any given point, right? The minute you start working individually on the relationship, there's no movement forward. So I think if I were to say what an ideal love story would be that I expect the person to meet me where I am and I meet them where they are at times when it's not working, or we meet in the middle somewhere and you will have multiple of these instances throughout the day, not just monthly once or something, right? Every day you're always figuring out how you can do better for the other person. how you can be better for the other person, and I'm sure they would also think that way, and
Right.
so I think that would be ideal in some sense. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to ask this one question on camera.
Okay.
What to do when your partner is jealous? Because I've had this experience myself. It's very problematic sometimes. Yeah.
I think what one can do is to try and understand what's causing them to feel that way. Because if they're feeling that way, then it's for a reason. It's either something they are experiencing or they are coming from, or it's something that you've done that has made them feel that way, right? A lot of times insecurities like these stem when the other person is either making them feel that way unknowingly or knowingly, or they are experiencing something from their past. So I think that's a conversation to be had, where you ask them, have a conversation saying, why are you feeling that way? Is it something I did, or what is it? What can we do better? But
Right.
yeah, it's something to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's for you from here? So what do you want to do? What's your dreams? What are your goals? Like, how Janani Rao would want to live from here on?
I think currently my focus is very much on my profession. I run this organization called Unapologetically You Counseling.
Okay.
It's something I started with my mom because she pivoted from her corporate career about 4 years back, did her master's, did her diploma, and is now also a practicing psychologist.
Okay.
So she and I started it together. We did our diploma together. But I want to make this that organization which everyone can reach out to, because that's how easily accessible it is. I want it to be, at least,
Right.
My idea is to make, professionally, my idea is to make mental health accessible to all, be it monetary wise, financial wise, or like location wise,
Right.
resources wise, everything. And I'm trying to do my best at this point, however I can, but I have bigger plans. I want to start spreading awareness about mental health around everywhere, about neurodiversity, because that changed my life for me. About LGBTQIA plus, about social justice, the caste system in our country, all of that. Like, it's a constant progress to make it a non-taboo for me, at least. Like, I want to do that. That's my biggest vision.
Right.
So that professionally, that's what I'm aiming at, and also to make myself a professional kuchipudi dancer. That's also something I'm working towards. Personally, I think I'm at a great place right now, and I think I want to continue being at this place that I am, work towards what I want to. Also travel a lot more if that's an option, if I make enough money. But yeah.
Yeah, you will for sure. But having said that, you have been talking about your mom, right?
Yeah.
And I did not ask much, but then I want to understand the relationship that you share with your mom as of now. How beautiful is that relationship? I'm sure it is. And how was the experience of studying with your mother and writing the exams for the diploma? How was everything?
Studying with her was like this. We were like this OG, couple, like mom and daughter studying together. Wow. But I think we helped each other out a lot, since she knows me in and out a little too much for her own good as for mine. She helped me a lot through my studying, because there are things I miss and she points out, and the things she misses. Again, like, So that was a lot of fun, to be honest. I think we learned a lot from each other as well in that process. I've seen her change as a person a lot. A relationship that I share with her, as for also my my stepdad and my grandfather, they are the three most important people in my life. The relationship I share with her is obviously very close, because it was I and her against the world for a very long time.
Right.
She was my support system, is my support system, continues to be my support system. I know that they are that cushion that I can fall back on at any given point. So yeah, I think it's a very beautiful relationship that I share with her, as well as my entire family. And we also have a lot of pets. We have a lot.
I'll go there, but before that, I just want to understand when you told that it was you and your mom against the world for most of your time, what do you mean?
Even during that, she was the one person. I've also seen her suffer a lot. Like, we just have like 20 years of age difference between each other, not much. I mean, she was also a child when I was born at that point. So she was about 19 when she had me. And so in some sense, she grew up while teaching me how to grow up. So during that also, she was like that support for me, anchor for me that I felt safe with. She's the one person who made me feel like there is a possibility of a safe space amongst chaos as well. Even after that, even after the divorce, she basically brought me up. I am who I am mainly also a lot because of her. She taught me the values that I also instill in myself and have redone for myself. So in that sense, I meant she and I were against the world for a very long time.
Right.
Because the world was not very kind to us for some time.
How's the world now?
I think right now both of us are in a good place and the world's been pretty nice.
All right.
It's been good.
Right. Perfect. Do you have any regrets?
Yes, walking away from my dance class that time. That's the only regret I hold and nothing else.
All right.
No other regrets.
So with everything said and done, you mentioned your goals and dreams as well.
Yeah.
And then you have also shared your stories, right? It's all great. But then there's one thing that I really want to know about you, and I'd want basically for you to tell me, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
Authentically myself always.
Perfect. Well, that's it. That's the end of our podcast. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, the conversation.
Yes, I did. I know
there were like breaks in between, but I hope you liked. But yeah, that's it. We will end this podcast with a small game.
Okay.
It would be a blinking game. Like, you look at me, I look at you. Whoever blinks first would lose the game. And I think you have an edge because you are on your glasses. And but let's see. And whoever actually loses will have to perform a philanthropic dare. So it could be feeding underprivileged children. It could be distributing certain food, or feeding stray dogs or cats, something like that. All right, you up for it?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
perfect.
When are we starting? Say countdown.
Yeah, we'll start now. Okay.
Give me a countdown.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. This is very weird, no? Oh my god, I think. Oh, you lost. So, Janani,
it's unfair. I have glasses.
No, but it's actually up for you, no? With glasses, you can be obstructed with the wind and something like that.
I'm sensitive to lights. But okay, I lost.
Okay. So, no, I don't think you'll lose because,
Joking,
it's
I would like to do this,
Right. So, we'll do one thing. There's written days written in this, and I do not know what's the number and what all. So, there are total 4 days. You'll have to choose one. 1 to 4, any number, and whatever is written, you'll have to do that. All right?
Sounds good.
Yeah, perfect. So, choose from 1 to 10, 1 to 4, any number.
1 to 4, any number?
Yeah. Choose one.
2.
2? I wanted you to choose 1. Okay.
Why, what's 1?
Oh, I just like that. My birthday is on December 1st, so I'm like, choose 1. Okay, so 2 says feed stray dogs.
No, happily.
Okay. All right. Will the next time we meet, we'll be performing the dare, and once the dare is done, we'll be publishing the podcast. All right. And it's all about impact that we're trying to do. Thank you. Thank you once.
Thank you so much. It was so nice.
Yeah.
So nice talking to you.